Right now, though, let's talk about something else which has been capturing the attention of the nation. Aggrieved investors with sister companies or EL Real Estate and Tikore Capital, both belonging to founder of Zoe Outreach Embassy Church, are to return to the police headquarters on Monday as police begin investigations into fraud claims against their pastor, Kelvin Kobiri. Now, the agitating investors stormed the church early on Sunday, the second time in 1 week, to demand a refund of their locked-up monies. The JoyNews' editor, Fred Smith, was there at the church premises. He joins me now for a bit of a conversation about how it all unfolded yesterday. Fred, good to see you.
Great.
What a bizarre scene it must have been. People standing outside a church, but not cheering for the pastor.
Not at all. Church service was ongoing, but we had scores of people who were outside. They had come all the way from Takwa, where they say they made the investment in the companies you mentioned, Tikore and EL Estates. They were convinced by the fact that the founder of this company or these companies is actually a man of God, because they've experienced issues with DKM, they've experienced Men's Gold, they've experienced Gold Coast Securities, and also they were very careful in putting their money somewhere. So according to them, they were convinced that this will work because the leader is a man of God. So outside, there was heavy security, because this has happened before. Just last week, a week before yesterday, they had stormed the facility. They actually entered the church to disrupt service. This time, there was heavy security. We saw men on the roof as I got there. Some at the entrance. In fact, at the entrance, there were military men who were there with some of the church's own security.
Military
persons.
men?
3 of them.
Wow.
They were there. I understand there were 5, but at the time I got there, there were only 3 left. So it means 2 must have left. Then they prevented these people from entering the church premises, and so they were outside having a arguments throughout the period. In fact, this was 7:30. As at 10:30, when church service was closing, just after offering, the church was closing. They were still there and trying to get in. At this time, the police had been called in, and so there was police presence who had taken over security at the facility and preventing anybody from coming and urging people to calm down.
Can I ask you this before you continue? How were the church security team able to distinguish between those who were there with a grievance and those who were visiting the church or attending Sunday service?
That in distinguishing this, it will be very interesting. And so some people were coming in as this agitation was ongoing. They were given a chance to pass without any hindrance.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions. But those who were really aggrieved, you could see. I mean, look at the pictures. Those who are aggrieved, it's showing in their faces. They're holding placards, and they sounded very, very disturbed by the fact that their monies have not been paid, and so that's you can
are these
clearly.
Police officers?
These are police officers. They were called in after the church's own security and the military could not contain the investors, the angry investors, and so they managed to distinguish between them. I don't know how they did it. So one of them, he was on the screen a while ago, was saying that, well, they should allow them to go in. They also want to worship. They felt it was discriminatory to prevent some people from
entering to worship. Did that work?
It didn't work.
Oh dear, when they start turning away people from the house of God, right?
Yes.
So eventually there was police intervention, right?
Indeed. So church service was over and church members had to leave. So the police had to call in reinforcement to protect them, because there were innocent people, children and so on, who had to leave and exit the facility. So they came in to support. So all of these people went. And then the Pastor Kelvin Kobiri was escorted. In fact, he was in a 4-wheel drive that he owns. He sat in that. His wife drives another car. She was made to sit in that 4-wheel. The police officer and the son of Pastor Kelvin Kobiri also sat in that vehicle. So there were 2 police officers in that vehicle, and they drove. And the vehicle belonging to his wife was driven by a police officer, and they headed for. There were other vehicles in the convoy. I don't know who those belonged to.
Right.
I only was able to distinguish the ones that belonged to him and the wife.
And the wife.
So they headed for the CID headquarters and asked the aggrieved customers to also go there. So they went, I also went, and what happened there was behind closed doors. But
okay.
I had some briefing. I do understand that as the case was called, they were told that there are already more than 7,000 separate cases lodged against Pastor Kubre.
Wow.
Yes, 7,000 different cases.
Amazing.
That must be different customers who may be aggrieved. And for majority of these, they are people who have just invested but cannot recover their funds after investing.
Now, very briefly, tell me about the military presence. These 3 people, three military men who you saw there. That's a bit unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it looked a bit unusual, so we wanted to find out. You know, the church had pasted some notices on the wall saying that nobody should trespass, nobody who had not been invited there should come over, no media men allowed on the facility, and that taking photos and things are at the taker's own risk and all that. So this military officer and the church's security were there to enforce that as well. So when the confusion was going on, our cameraman decided to film the incident. That's David Ankoma. So as he was filming, there's this military man whose face was showing. Then he got angry and pointed at him, warned him to stop filming. They said, no, I'm filming this incident. You cannot stop me. I am a media person. He actually showed his ID card to him. I was there. But this military officer did not listen. He just came out of the crowd and attacked our cameraman. He actually seized the camera until the head of the police team that had come there took the camera from him and gave it back to David Ankoma. Not long after that, I do understand that some of those whose funds are locked up there are actually senior military officers. I understand that a call was quietly placed to the senior, the high-ranking officials in the Ghana Armed Forces, and not long we saw a military van coming and quietly moved these guys into the van and took them off. My information is that they are being investigated for coming on an operation that had not been assigned them.
Wow. Wow. That would indicate that whomever sent them to this church certainly has enough clout to make soldiers allegedly break the law.
Indeed,
to be there. Well, Fred, thank you so much for that. My goodness, you and David must clearly have been in some danger, some threat of harm while you were on this assignment. Thank goodness no harm came to you. We appreciate your work very much. Fred Smith, editor here at Joy News. Now, there's so much more for us to talk about this morning. When we come back from this rather short break, we're going to speak to Sarafina Akishab, who's seeking to halt child marriages up north. Now, she leads a group of 34 children, or young people, practically saving girls from being married off. Mama Via Usuabaji will host her right here on the AM show. Stay exactly where you are.